Well, good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Maumee Bay Club, as well as the Greater Lansing Area Club, we'd like to invite you to, or welcome you to, Breaking the Silence. This is our discussion today on a very serious topic. It is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. And so we want to share some information with you in the hopes of helping some other people in our community who are dealing with all of the things, right? All of the things that are going on, so that we can be helpers one for another and hopefully save a life. So, again, my name is Crystal Taylor, president of the Maumee Bay Club, and I'd just like to welcome you all to this event today. And next up, we will have a welcome from the Black Club. President Sharon, are you available and on screen?
Hello, I am here. How are you? Mommy Bay President Crystal Taylor and everyone else, all my sisters. I just want to thank you all for your presence of being here and supporting this worthwhile event. The suicide prevention, as you know, this is a critical matter. This is critical for along all boards. It doesn't matter what race, gender, or sex. It affects us all and it affects our families. So I appreciate the collaboration between Maumee Bay, Greater Lansing Area Club. I can't wait to hear the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And for our presenter today, we all know Katreva Bisbee. Katreva is part of the North Central District area. Sorry, North Central District Officers Executive Committee. She's also in Greater Lansing Area Club, and she is the board president, correct, of NAMI in Lansing. And so today our presenter is none other than Katreva Bisbee. Katreva, you are on the scene.
All right. Hey, everybody. Listen, Crystal on here sounding like, I appreciate you. I want to just say thank you to all who are here tonight. And so we definitely are not going to be before you long. I am a person who I want to get it, hit it, and quit it and get you out because we got things to do. You got families to feed and tend to. But being able to provide these type of programs is important. And so it's going to be a little interactive. We're going to have some polls for you. We're going to test your knowledge. We're going to test, talk about some myths, some facts, and things of the such as it relates to this topic. And so we're going to give you the information that you need. So I am going to share my screen. All righty. Yes. I take little technology. I had all my stuff together. All right, here we go. I got two monitors. So, all right, share. All right, so let's get into it. So we're talking about suicide awareness, and we want to break the silence about this. And so we can't be quiet. There's some topics that sometimes as a nation, as a society, even possibly as some cultures or family, we just want to stay away from, right? And that could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe we're not comfortable with sharing about this information. Maybe we are ignorant to some things. And so today is an opportunity for us to be able to just kind of have a conversation and talk about this thing. So I just want to introduce, so we gave you guys a welcome, and I want to say, give you this disclaimer, take care of yourself. So if anything that we talk about, have a conversation, we discuss, if it becomes a little bit emotional for you, or if it becomes too much or overwhelming for you, make sure you take care of yourself. You can exit out of the meeting, call a support system, whether that's a friend, whether that's a therapist. If you need to dial the 988 number, please do so. And so our goal here today is to raise awareness. We're going to give you some statistics about this topic. We're going to discuss some stigma and myths that's associated with it, recognize some signs. What are some of the warning signs, whether yourself or maybe a loved one may have, that you can then be able to help to, strategize and be able to get them to a place where they can get some assistance. And so we're going to talk about some statistics. We're going to test your knowledge and see what is it that you know. And so at this time, we're going to have a poll that's launched, and it's going to ask you a couple quick questions. It's going to be about 4 questions. And so, Crystal, you can launch that.
The poll is launched, please, if you
All
would.
right. So the first question is, in 2023, death by suicide was what number of leading cause of deaths in the US? What number caused? 3rd, 15th, or 11th? Was it the 3rd leading cause, the 15th leading cause, or the 11th leading cause? All righty. We got about 15 of y'all on here. The second question. In 2023, how many deaths by suicide were recorded in the United States? Was it 49,000, 60,000, or 1,000? Let's test your knowledge. In 2023, how many suicides were attempted? How many were attempted? Was it 100,000, 1.5 million, or 3 million? What do you say? And then finally, nationwide, what group has the highest death by suicide rate? Is that youth? Is that the elderly? Is that females or middle-aged adults? What do you say? What do you say? Finish answering the questions.
We'll leave it up for about 10 more seconds, and then we'll close the poll and review the answers. We got 8 people now. Okay, keep going.
All right. Hopefully you got your stuff in. And so remember what you chose. Remember your choices. So we'll go with number 1. What number was leading cause? It is the 11th leading cause of death in the United States. And individuals in 2023, the total of individuals who died by suicide was 49,000. 49,000, okay? Those were individuals who were successful. The amount that attempt is 1.5 million people. 1.5 million. That's a lot. Okay. And then the group that has the highest rate that's impacted by this, it is the elderly. It is the elderly. And so we'll talk about some of the things as to, why we think these may be, and what we can do with some of these situations that we may encounter. So when we talk about this topic, there's a lot of stigma that is associated with this topic. And so stigma, when you hear the word stigma, what do you think of? Maybe drop it in the chat. Is stigma negative? Is stigma positive? What is it that you think of when you hear the word stigma? The word stigma. Drop it in the chat. What does stigma mean to you? Negative. Okay, someone says negative feedback. Okay. And so we're going to have another poll launched as well. And this is going to give you something to think about. Okay. So when we talk about stigma, we're going to launch the next poll. It's the myths versus facts. Myths versus facts. All right. So our first question. Talking about suicide gives someone the idea to attempt it. Is that true or false? Do you think that's true? True or false? True or false? Talking about it is going to encourage a person to do it. True or false? Is everybody seeing the polls? I don't see anybody putting any numbers in. Okay, all right. People started. Okay, okay. Our second question, suicide can be prevented. True or false? True or false? Suicide can be prevented. Only people with mental health conditions attempt suicide. Is that true or false? True or false? Let's see what you have to say. And when someone is suicidal, they're always suicidal. Is that true or false? People who make attempts are seeking attention. That's the next question. Is that true or false? True or false? And then our final question, there is nothing I or you can do to help someone who might be suicidal. Is that true or false? All right, so let's get into it. So talking about it, that is a myth. These are myths, right? So talking about it does not encourage a person to do it. And I know I grew up in the era where we had to, get permission. Even when we talk about sex education, right? So some of these things might be uncomfortable to have conversations about. And again, maybe that's due to some ignorance, not knowing, or maybe your mother, grandmother, or someone hasn't spoken to you about it. So maybe you don't know how to speak to your children about it. So I remember, just even talking about sex, it was a whole taboo, it was a whole stigma. And so that is how it is when it comes to mental health conditions. And so talking about something does not encourage a person to do it. If anything, it helps them to have the information and the knowledge and to be comfortable with having these conversations and being able to share. Sometimes when people can't share or when stigma is attached, that can prevent a person from seeking help as well. So talking about it is not going to encourage it. Suicide can be prevented. Suicide can be prevented. If we recognize warning signs and we're able to be there to notice our family members or our friends, we can encourage them and assist them into getting the help that they're needed to be able to help them deal with whatever it is that they're talking about or feeling. Because typically you're having some feelings of overwhelmingness, hopelessness, things of the such. And so getting to resources that will be able to assist you with that will help an individual. Okay. People with mental health conditions only attempt suicide. This is false. Now, mental health conditions can be a factor that when you're dealing with people who might be considering suicidal ideation. However, it's not just only those individuals. There are people who may not have a formal diagnosis of a mental health condition. And so life, as we say recently, life be life and things are happening. People are getting overwhelmed because of a variety of issues. And so it does not necessarily mean that the person has a formal diagnosis. Let's see, someone who is suicidal, they're going to always be suicidal. Again, that goes back to when I shared if we know warning signs, if we're getting them the help and the resources that they need, they may never, they may never do it again. They may never have these ideations again. And so it's getting them the help so that they're able to process their feelings and things that are going on in their life to help them. People who make attempts are seeking attention. So this is good because we hear this a lot, and it's a serious matter, and it should not be dismissed. I do bullying presentations when I was in the school district, and I always tell people, we have to deal with all situations that arise because we don't want it to get larger and bigger. So, we got to deal with the name calling, because if we don't deal with that, then that can turn into a bullying situation, right? So if a person makes any statement, we should take that serious. We're asking, what did you mean by that? What exactly, how are you feeling? There's things that you can do. And so take those things seriously. You can always, do a wellness check, things of the such. And so just make sure you're not just, oh, they're just trying to get attention. No, there is something behind that. And we want to make sure that we are getting people the resource, or at least trying to extend those resources to them so that they can get help. And then the final, there is nothing that you can do as it relates to someone who is suicidal. And again, that is false. You reaching out, you showing empathy, you having a listening ear, that helps a person know that they are heard. Because sometimes, again, you have that hopelessness. They may feel like they're in this thing or game of life alone. And so we don't want them to feel like that. So that is not true. There is something that you can do about it. So when we talk about just kind of understanding suicide and stigma, we know that there are some misconceptions. We know that typically they're negative. You guys drop those in the chat. And our language matters, right? And so as an industry, making sure that we are using language that doesn't contribute to the stigma. And so you may start to hear people say conditions versus illness or disorder, right? Or disease, because, that kind of sounds like, oh, you got the cooties, right? Back in the day, it was like, oh, you got the cooties. And so we want to also just make sure that individuals know and understand that when it comes to your mental, it is a condition just as it is with any other physical condition that you may experience. So whether that is diabetes, whether that is high blood pressure, whether that is asthma, whether that is some chronic back pain, when you have those things happening in your body, you go get the assistance and the help that you need from those particular doctors that are able to give and lend their expertise, right? And so that is how it is as it relates to mental health. Your mental health is a part of your physical health. Your head is not sitting on the desk or over there on the table or on the counter. It's on top of this physical body. And so this one whole body is one. And so just as we get those things looked at, there's specific individuals and professionals that are here to help us process and think about things, our responses, our action as it relates to our mental capacity. And so use compassion over judgment. It's a whole lot going on in our world today, and people can become overwhelmed. People are worried about even just our basic needs, right? Healthcare, jobs, things of the such. We have a lot of food insecurities that's happening around the world. And so we got to use compassion. We never know what someone is dealing with. We have us that's on this line right now. It's about 20 something of us that's on here. And guess what? Somebody endured or had to deal with something today. And you don't know that. Some have the cameras off. Some of us got the cameras on and we smiling and we presenting and we're doing all the things. And you may not know what a person is going through. So always extend compassion over judgment. And if you know someone who might be experiencing something, sometimes get an understanding, ask questions, so that way you can be in the know. And so individuals who are experiencing emotional pain and distress and overwhelming feelings, there are different factors that can lead to individuals who experience suicide ideation. And so I just want to stop and clarify. When I say suicide ideation, that means they have the thoughts. of doing the act, right? So those are the thoughts and things that are associated with that. And so it can be linked to a variety of things. And so we did say that individuals who experience the mental health conditions will sometimes have these ideations. And so it doesn't always have to be, but that is one of the things that happen. And so these individuals who have these ideations, they're struggling. They may have a formal diagnosis. So whether that's depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, any post-traumatic stress disorder. And let's be clear, post-traumatic stress disorders, also known as PTSD, is not just for your law enforcement. It is not just for your military personnel. If you've experienced something in your life, your childhood, growing up, a car accident or something like that, that can be so traumatic for you that you no longer drive. And so now you're a passenger princess for the rest of your life because this thing that happened to you had such an impact on you, right? And so that's how it can be. If you've grown up in the inner city and you witnessed violence, or if you've been in a household where there was abuse or anything of the such going on, these are just a few things to name, but they can impact a person's emotional well-being and also their coping mechanisms. And so, we want to make sure that we have coping mechanisms that are positive, okay? Because there's a lot of negative ones, right? So if you have some positive coping mechanisms or things that you do when you get overwhelmed, just drop those in the chat and we'll look at those in a little bit. So what do you do when you get overwhelmed, when your day is being a day, when the children, the husband, the workers, the student, your club sisters are like, right? They're really working you. What do you do? What do you do? The demands of wearing different hats. If you're a mother, a father, a businesswoman, entrepreneur, a leader in your organization, in the church, what do you do when you get overwhelmed? Drop those in the chat and we'll look at those. Hopelessness or despair. That can make it difficult for a person to even envision a brighter future. So again, coming to those people who may not have this official diagnosis, stuff is happening. And to them, I just don't know what to do. And sometimes it is better for me not to be here than to be here. And so one of those other myths stated that it was a selfish act. So us looking in, we might be like, oh, that was so selfish. They didn't consider how we were going to feel about them not being here. But to them, I don't want the people to have the strain. I don't want to have to deal with this. So in their mind, they think it's selfless. And so these things and this overwhelming and things not being able to improve can guide a person to having some of these ideations. Some other things, let me look in the chat and see what you guys say. How do you cope? Let's see. Someone take a nap, pray, exercise. Let's see what else. Oh, worship songs. Yes, I tell people a nap and a snack will do you well. Listen, get you something to eat and go and lay down. It's gonna be all right when you wake up. Listen. So yes, thank you guys for sharing. Some other things that might contribute to these ideations: relationship problems or trauma and abuse. So conflicts. Sometimes you get into these conflicts, whether it's romantic, whether it's friends, whether it's other groups and stuff like that. Sometimes you can isolate yourself, right? And if you're dealing with things over a period of time, and it allows you to sometimes feel rejected, feel like you're not worthy, feel that maybe somebody abandoned you. If it was a relationship, maybe a romantic one, and the person left, or if there was a divorce, or it was a bad breakup, right? Sometimes we feel like we're unsupported, we're not loved. Maybe you didn't grow up in the best family and your family is considered dysfunctional, right? And so those things can be distressing, especially if you see other people who are having the model relationship or family dynamic. You can begin to just kind of sit in the corner and just, have a moment with yourself And then these thoughts begin to race and contribute to some of these feelings. And so experiencing trauma, I talked about that, trauma, abuse, violence. Some of these things are long lasting psychological effects that can lead to these ideations as well. And so unresolved trauma can be overwhelming and it can be so unbearable. And also, our unresolved trauma can show up different ways, right? It shows up in our interaction. Earlier in the year, we had a workshop where we talked about mother wounds. So if someone had a not so good relationship with their mothers, that can show up in how you interact on your job with other women. And unconsciously, sometimes you don't know that you're doing things or you participate in actions and behaviors that are not good, right? Or not sisterly. And so unresolved trauma can come out. If we don't deal with those things, we think we're good. And guess what, y'all? Sometimes trauma can show up kind of like grief, right? It will show up at the opportune time. You're like, oh, I didn't got over that, right? In your mind, that's what you say. And we don't know how you got over it if you didn't get the help, but that's a whole nother topic, right? And it'll just boom, it's like a volcano, it erupts, and now it's impacting a variety of things. And so we don't want to be in the place where we suffer in silence. And we know that sometimes historically, even some of the groups, especially in the African American community, that sometimes we don't want people in our business, or we've taught, hey, what happens in this house stays private, right? And so that will cause you to be able to suffer in silence when really you need the help to be able to be a better person. Other things that contribute to the ideation is substance abuse and chronic health conditions. Substance abuse and addictions can really exacerbate mental health conditions as well. It leads to other impulsive behaviors and also includes these ideations and actions. And so I know we think, let's go to some basic, right? So marijuana, there's a lot of people in this urban world that, might engage in the use of marijuana. It's from the earth. It's legal. However, there is a such thing as marijuana or substance abuse induced psychosis. And so having a large usage of that can invoke a psychosis and a person being able to now have a mental breakdown. And so think about too, if you are a person with a diagnosis and you're taking a medication, well, if you're taking a substance on top of this medication, you probably shouldn't be mixing things, right? There's a lot of things, even if we're, getting some work done, dental work and things of that, right? It'll say, hey, y'all, don't take this and drink alcohol. So if you have a person who just, I'm so overwhelmed and I'm trying to escape, they're not thinking about that, right? That's further from their mind. Individuals dealing with chronic pain. And so this is where, even in our elderly, they're dealing with chronic pain. They're dealing with their health declining, possibly losing a spouse. And, grief too is a component where individuals that can sink in, and individuals may feel like they can't get out or they're hopeless, or that person not being here anymore, they can't function. And so we want to make sure that individuals know that there is help for them. And so if you're dealing with chronic pain, a lot of medical or health conditions, or your quality of life is diminishing, or maybe you got a diagnosis, maybe you're scared, you're fearful, and now you're thinking about things. And so people think about these things as a way to escape from their suffering. And then finally, the finances, the money, the dollars, the bag, or not having the bag. Finances can stress a person out. And so we know that money is needed to do a lot of stuff in this earth, right? So if you've lost your job, or if you are in some increasing debt, whether that's due to possibly being involved in this, and so now you made some bad choices, or again, maybe you didn't have anything to do with the downsizing or the change and the transition or the economic stability of our society and our nation. but this can contribute to some hopelessness and desperation and increases suicidal ideations. So we're going to talk about some warning signs, right? And so we're going to have times for questions and answers and stuff like that. So please, please, please don't forget those. We will get to those. We're going to talk about some warning signs and some risk factors. So what are some warning signs? Well, if you see some behavior, some significant and some drastic behavior changes, some withdrawal, some hopelessness, mood or sleeping changes, let's begin to ask some questions, right? Let's take this mental note. I tell people we're not robots. So yeah, we're gonna be happy, we're gonna be sad, we're gonna have these feelings, right? And so we got to think about if these things are happening for more than 2 weeks at a time. And so we're not here to diagnose anybody, but when we talk about diagnosis, there is particular formulas that are used to diagnose these health conditions. And so if they are impacting you for a significant amount of time and impacting your daily activities where you can't get up, you can't go, you can't brush your teeth, some of those basic things, that is when you get into needing some help and needing to see someone. And this becomes a condition, okay? Feeling sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks. Again, I said, we're gonna be sad. There's things that's gonna happen. We're gonna lose loved ones. We're going to endure things, right? But if you're doing this for more than 2 weeks, we gotta take note. Excess use of alcohol or drugs. Again, people are using these things to cope. And so why? What are you trying to escape from? What is it that you're fearful of? If they have intense fears or they're worrying, there's worrying that's impacting their daily activities. Some people can become delusional. Some people can be paranoid. It's the they, right? They own me. They doing this. They don't want me to succeed. Who is they? I had a family member. I had to say, sir, who is they? And so they have this intense worry. Somebody's out to get them, right? Seeing or hearing things that may not be real. Again, some of that delusion, some of that paranoia, and even in workplace. And so let's not even just individually, because these individuals have to go and still operate. And so if you are a corporate person, if you're a leader in your job or you're a boss, what happens when you see a worker that has increased absences? If there's a decline in their performance, they've made some concerning statements to a fellow coworker, right? So what's happening in the workplace? Because sometimes workplaces can contribute to our stress, okay? It can contribute to our stress as well, y'all. So as we're talking about these things, you might say, okay, Katreva, this is all the way good. I'm not a professional. What exactly do you want me to do? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. And again, we're not telling you to diagnose anybody, but we'll give you some tips on how to respond. And so there is a formal training that's called QPR, and that's question, persuade, and refer. And so CMH does this training as well. But the first thing is, we're going to ask the person directly. Remember, talking about it is not going to contribute them to doing it. You got to be up in their face. I'm that friend that I'm in your face. What you say? What did you mean by that? Sometimes people will say, this is too much and it gives me these feelings and I don't want to be here. I'm not going to assume that you mean not on this earth. So let me ask, what do you mean by this? Are you just meaning you don't want to be like here at this job? Or you say you don't want to be on this earth walking around? You want to go be with, if it's a person of faith, I say you want to go be with Jesus. What you trying to say? So I ask those questions and I am not being ashamed about it. And so you got to get in a person's face sometimes and be like, what's happening? And so, or you can say, hey, I've noticed you've kind of been feeling down, or, you've been moving like this, or you've been talking about hurting yourself, and give them back what you've seen. And so sometimes it's when you hear something, you're like, wait a minute, what? So don't be afraid to ask the question. And then let's practice our active listening. So be that listener. So while they're talking, you be quiet. You're going to show empathy. and that you're understanding. And again, it's a non-judgment zone. We're not judging anybody because guess what? We're all a decision away from something. Okay, so don't think that you got it all just in that moment. That's your time to listen and to get some information. You want to stay calm, maintain your composure in these conversations. People may disclose some things, and you can't be like, they'll be like, oh, I can't say nothing, right? Or you can't say, I don't know how you, I don't, no, don't do that, right? So making sure that you stay calm. I had a situation when I worked in the school district. This gal, she came to my office, and it was towards the end of the day, and she came in, and the one other counselor was like, hey, I think she needs some help. So I talked, we were having a conversation, and as she was talking, I was led to ask her, are you having thoughts of hurting yourself or anybody else? She said, yeah. I said, who? And she was like, myself. I said, okay. I said, do you have a plan? So this is my question to her. Do you have a plan? She said, yes, I do. I plan on, when my mom's gone, I'm gonna go in the bathroom and I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and I'm gonna cut from here to here. And then in this time, this will happen. And so in my mind, I'm like, I got to keep my composure like this, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, snap. Okay, we got to solicit some extra, manpower. And so after she began to have a conversation and divulge that, I said, listen, there is help for you. I said, I can help you. I said, but I need you here for me to help you. Can you commit to signing this contract to not harm yourself so that I can get you the help that you need? She says, okay, yes. All right, there you go. I immediately went, solicited some help, got the other individuals that I needed in about 2 weeks' time. Little Miss Lady, she was bouncing around in the hallway. She had a couple of friends with her, a totally complete person. I mean, she had life in her. She was smiling, whereas before she was just walking in the hall, kind of withdrawn by herself. Now, what if I didn't take that time? What if I was like, it's the 30, I gotta go. I had an appointment, I had another appointment, come back tomorrow. Or what if I would have freaked out when she was being vulnerable to tell me what was happening, right? And so because I was able to keep my composure, I was able to solicit the help that was needed for her to be better. And so that was the persuasion part. I persuaded her to say, hey, there is help for you. So in this moment, persuade, encourage this individual to let them know, listen, there is help for you. You may not, as their friend, as their husband, their wife, whoever, have those answers because you're not skilled at that. And we understand, but there are people who are trained and who are skilled. And so let them know there's health professionals, there's counselors, there's people that is here, there's resources to help you. Assure them, listen, I'm gonna be by your side. If I'm not there, I got a team or someone who can help walk you through this. There are many times I've had to go with individuals to appointments, to court dates, to fill out paperwork, things of the such, to help them through that process. Because sometimes people just don't know. Some people perish for lack of knowledge. And so if they know and they have someone holding their hand, sometimes they'll do better and be able to get the assistance that they need. And then referring them to the appropriate resources. And this is kind of just, when I talk about it, it all blends together, and I kind of do that in one swoop, but letting them know that here's some information, and then, do the follow-up, do the checkup. We can now do, you can always do, but wellness checks, right? You can call your local law enforcement, let me like, hey, I'm kind of concerned about this person. Can we do a wellness check? Right now, Lansing Police Department now has social workers on their force. That helps with a variety of reasons. That helps when a person, say if a person has to get picked up to go get an evaluation. If someone has to have the news broken to them that maybe one of their loved ones is not here, the social work is able to be that buffer. And we know that law enforcement with certain populations, they're not seen as the good guy, right? They're seen as the they call them the ops, right? Like that ain't my friend. And so seeing a person in a polo and plain clothing versus someone in the blues with all of the things is a little bit more palatable versus seeing the police officers. So these are some things that you can do. So we're in work or we're in organizations. What are some things and strategies that you can do? Promote open conversations, right? So just like we're having tonight. So hopefully throughout this talk, you've learned some things. If you are a person who might have younger children or grandchildren, or you work in youth groups and things of the such, hopefully you've gotten some nuggets on what to do. Train manager, if you're in a place where it's like, you know what, maybe my staff need to be able to kind of get this, so that way we can recognize other staff members who might be in, enduring some of these things. That's available. They have different groups and discounts for that as well. Encourage people to use their employee assistance programs, known as EAPs. A lot of people don't read them handbooks no more, and a lot of times they're more electronic now, right? And so people really don't read now. But I tell people, read your employee handbook, because there are resources in there for you. And most often these employee programs are extended to you and the individuals that are in your household. There are crisis hotlines. 988 is one. You can text 988. You can call 988. They have some different languages as well. And so this is a line that it's probably been about 3 years now. I actually did a piece with the news. We kind of talked about that when the anniversary came by, about who was using it and who was not using it, and how it was helping individuals. And so they've made some really good strides. Those people are trained to be able to have conversations. So you don't have to just be going through an active crisis. If you like, listen, I'm overwhelmed and I just need to talk. Hello, it's the hard day. They're there. They're trained to be able to talk. But if you are in a crisis and having some ideations, they are there to help too. And they also help with individuals who have substance use abuse issues as well. And of course, your local NAMI, our NAMI National has lots of educational videos. So it's, mental health and faith, mental health, LGBTQIA, mental health and Pacific Islanders or the Native Americans. We know that there are other groups who may not, again, talk about this, but are experiencing these instances at a higher rate. And so you can find mental health and whatever you need to, and how to talk about that, incorporate that. I'm actually on Friday, I'll be presenting at East Lansing again on professional development. The schools, they need to know this, the community. We have trainings for the communities and the faith-based communities as well, for them to look out for different things. And your local NAMI is a grassroots program that helps individuals. We do education, we do advocacy, we do support. And with that, they have support groups. And then the support individuals, there are people called lived experiences. So when we say someone who is dealing with this or have a diagnosis, the term that we use is lived experience. And in these presentations we do at the end, you have individuals with lived experience that come to share. And it's a time for people to be able to put a face with a person and just kind of humanize the condition. Because again, we talked about how there's some stereotypes and myths about mental health. Some people just think, oh, somewhere somebody in a straitjacket somewhere, or they're combative. No, your professors, some of your pastors, some of your physicians, the people you work with, some of those folks you will not know, because guess what? They're regulated through medication, talk therapy, or different other things, right? And so you just don't know sometimes what people are going through, but some people have been successful at regulating themselves. And so in closing, I want to let you know that suicide is preventable. That was one of the myth questions. You can't do anything about it. That is untrue. You can lend that ear. You can question. You can refer. you can let the people know that it's gonna be all right. Okay. Awareness helps to save lives. Carry forward with compassion and support. Compassion and support. Let's not assume, okay? Let's jump to these conclusions. And guess what, y'all? The way I do something, the way Crystal does something, the way Renee may do something, or Sharon, or Tracy, it's gonna be different. So we can't say, oh, I wouldn't do that. Well, no, right? Everybody is not you. Everybody is created uniquely and will do things different. So don't assume, ask questions. And then ultimately, we have to get comfortable or be comfortable with having some uncomfortable conversations, right? So whether it's suicide, whether it's, pulling your sister to the side, or something is not working, or something is not right, let's have a conversation about it, because the sooner we have a conversation about it, we can come to a resolve. What are some solutions that we can come to make this better? Okay. And so at this time, we have questions and answers. And so I don't know if you guys put some things into the chat or not, but I'm ready for some questions, and I might have some answers for you. I don't claim to know it all, but I know a little bit. Any questions, Krista?
There was one question from Mary
Okay.
Thompson. She asked if you could share your slides.
I'll always be asking. I'll be asking that too when I'm doing presentations. So, okay. All right.
All right, we could send it out after the session. If anybody else has questions, I didn't see any more in there. You saw the links in there for um, Lansing and Michigan and Ohio. I didn't find a QPR though for a training there, but Katreva, do you have the QPR training? We have it here in Toledo through the Lucas County Suicide Prevention Coalition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ours is through our community mental health.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I put that link in there for the community mental health place. Is it CEICMH?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yep. So they already have that in there. Okay.
Right.
Katreva, this is Patty. I would just like to
Yes.
make a comment.
Yes,
I was the one, I answered the question about attention, and I said sometime it could be yes. And when you gave your statement of what happened with the young lady at school, one of my first thoughts is like, is she looking for attention? And so thank you for clarifying that, even if that's like an initial thought,
mm-hmm.
you got to carry through with,
Yeah.
What needs to happen, because
Mm-hmm.
she may end up doing it, and then what? So
Right.
thank you for clarifying that, because sometimes you think it's like they're just looking for attention.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
even if they are, we need to handle the situation that is they're faced with. So
Correct.
thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Also, yeah, because I think I just heard about a football player within the last week or a few days, and so we've seen a lot of celebrities. We saw Twitch, we saw I believe it was Miss USA, Robin Williams. We know Robin Williams have so many, that he was a whole comedian that took time to make us laugh daily, but he was not well. And so I just want to encourage that even all that you have to do and all the hats that you wear, this information, take and put it in your tool belt. So you might need it, you can draw on it. If someone you see or in your family may need it, you have it to pull out and to help and to give. And so again, that compassion is needed. Extend grace. I think I say that a lot. And I think as I get older, I'll be like, extend grace. And so extend grace to one another. I just want to say thank you to the Greater Lansing Area Club, the Maumee Bay Clubs, for this collab. It was great. We're kicking off this club year doing something amazing. And so if you are a health professional that is on, I thank you for showing up every day and putting in the work. If you are a clergy member, because guess what? I know folks come to y'all with stuff too. And hopefully you're that clergy member that knows your lane, that you stay in your spiritual lane and you can pray, but you can refer them folks out like, hey, I'm not the professional for that. go on over here and get the help that you need. And just for the community, and people who are living with experiences, if that is you on the line, on tonight, I just want to say thank you, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was really great. And we'll have an evaluation for you guys to fill out as well. I believe that might come after you guys get off. Listen, don't forget to do the evaluation. Okay, evaluation helps. Why? Because we want to know what we did good, and we want to know if we want to keep doing these things. And also, guess what? When it comes to applying for grants, we need to have some statistics and numbers to let the people know what kind of impact we had. So don't forget that, not just for us, but when you do other stuff and there's evaluation, don't be like, oh, I'll get to it later, because we know we're doing a million things and we might forget it. So make sure that you do the evaluation as it comes out. And I am gonna still be here if there's any question. And I'll give it back over to Crystal. She has some closing remarks.
Thank you so much. One last thing, I think when Morgan mentioned another way people can show signs is by stopping their medication and being so stressed that they are sick all the time. You don't know if you want to mention about that. Thanks for sending that, Morgan.
Yeah. And as a caregiver, sometimes there's people that is caring for loved ones, right? Caregiver burnout is real. So if you are caring for a loved one, make sure that you do what you need to do to self-care for yourself and have those moments. You know, if respite is available, take advantage of that. Don't feel guilty. That's why these things are out here, right? Something has happened for people to come up with these businesses or these services. And so don't feel guilty as a caregiver because I want some time to myself, or, you know, I don't want to hear mom, wife, honey boo, whatever your title is. You need to make those spaces and time for yourself so that you're able to reset and be able to be good to those who you serve. I always say, if you're not well, you can't be well to your community, to your family members, to your employer. And so you need to make sure that you are well. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. And so please remember that. If you don't remember anything else, take a nap, get a snack, book a cruise. I do all of the things. Supposed to be like, oh, Cleveland go sit down, so and I do. And
Cruise.
So
I go to cruise. Delveda had one thing also. Can you elaborate more on the marijuana-induced psychosis?
So yes, so there are some substances that can induce a psychosis. So if you have heavy intake of it, it can then alter your mind, and then you can begin to experience some psychotic behavior. And then what happens is when people are having co-occurring things is happening, especially for substance abuse, because some substances can mimic a behavior psychosis. And so now it's what's happening, what is the real? And so if a person has a substance abuse going on, sometimes they got to treat that to see what's that person's baseline. So was this action or behavior because of this substance, or is it because we got some psychological going on? And in some cases, it can be both, right? And so there's a treatment plan that now people have to, work. And so it's not always a clear cut. And so this is why when people go into facilities, that, it takes them a little bit of time, or you might hear, okay, this person got to be on this medication for a certain amount of time so we can see how it works with their body and things of the such. So that is kind of what that is. So marijuana can induce or provoke a mental psychosis.
Thank you. All right. I don't see any other questions there. This is the point where we're going to talk about announcements. So for the members of GLAC, do you have any programs that are coming up soon?
Programs?
Not right away. This one was the most current and relative one that needs to be listened to. And I'm just so glad that you both collaborated on this, because in my time, and of course in my mom's time, this was a taboo subject, whether people believe that or not, and especially among the Black community. I don't know how it was in any other types of colors and races. But another thing that you brought up that I was listening to as I read through the chats was about the older generation. You know, you always think this is a young type of a disease of, having suicide on the mind, as usually the young people bullying in school, you're not part of the in crowd. But when you think about the 60, 80-year olds that are feeling like they have nothing and they should just leave here, I didn't know it was that prevalent. I'm gonna just say that. Just
Mhm.
didn't know that at all.
And especially when you think about sharing people who were defined by what they did, with
Mhm.
their job, or men, maybe construction or all the trades, right? And so I'm no longer able to do that because whether I'm retired or because maybe I have some health challenges. And so we've unfortunately in our male population have not did a good job of letting them know that they're valuable outside of providing and doing all the strong things, right? So when you no longer able to do that, that can weigh on you as well. And then individuals who may go into nursing homes, if you're away from your family or if you don't have a family. I remember there was a resident who her family was away. She was the only child and she never had children. And so
Mm.
sometimes you have those instances, or the family is at odds and don't come to visit and things of the such. You have all of that stuff that can play on a person as well.
Yeah. I had recently seen, I put that thing in there about the older people, the scammers and things are
Yeah.
so like terrible now. And there was a couple of stories like back to back, and I don't know where they were in Ohio, but people had given access to their accounts and cleaned out like entire savings, and that was it. And so it was a string of them where people were like, well, I don't have anything else left, and I gave it away. And so just a difficult thing to consider when you retired and then every single dime that you had has, somebody took it from you. So I feel like that was, I never really thought about it like that. I
Right.
thought that it was that serious because I would think I could catch something real quick, but the
Hmm.
scammers are getting very, very skilled at how they go about doing things. So just something to consider too. If you have your seniors and they on the phone a lot, or they lonely or things like that, to be able to check up on them. I like what you said, Katreva, about leading with the compassion side, because we can get irritated really quick, but we have no idea, you know what I'm saying, that they just want to talk to somebody, and then they didn't gave up their whole farm, you know what I'm saying, all the stuff. And
Mm.
then that's, what is it left? So that's a lot. Morgan put something in the chat as well. I don't know if you saw that,
Mhm.
talking about acceptance, like having a huge issue with suicide, because they are the inability or difficult to accept.
Mhm.
Um, so like people just are lonely, number one, right? So they don't have a crowd that they can hang around or spend time with, or nobody really going to see about them. So that may be an area where we can all do more, just to check on your people,
It's
right?
true. And I think even talking about coping skills too. And so one thing as we talk about the school age children is that they haven't been around to develop those things, right? So we know people are going to talk about us. We know this too shall pass because we are aged and seasoned and we've been through some things. But if I'm in the fourth grade and I don't, they don't know that you're not about to see these high school students no more. I had a class of 350 in Detroit. I talk to consistently, maybe about five of the 350. And
Mm,
so, you know, they don't understand that. And it's my reputation and me here and now. And for them, it's, I can't take this anymore. They said this, or they put this on social media, or this, then the other. And so they don't know, okay, I can navigate through that. I don't have to pay attention to that, but they just haven't been here long enough to get the training to develop coping skills. And so those are some things that I think we need to begin sharing younger. But sometimes we know it's young people having the babies, and if I don't
mm,
got it, sometimes I can't give it, right? So that's a whole nother topic.
Yep, big deal there.
Yeah.
And just the status of our country is enough to make people just not want to share stuff, right?
Yeah,
A whole
it's
bunch of
true.
stuff. So
It's true.
college students, if if all those things are coming back, so lots of things to think about there. It was one other program I wanted to share for the Maumee Bay Club. We are going to be doing our breast cancer awareness program, and that will be on Saturday, October the 25th at the Wayman Palmer Y. Patty, would you like to speak on that at all? All the things that are going
Sure. This is our third year doing the mobile mammography van. We've had great success with new ladies getting their mammograms. We have a couple of locations that give us free bras. And this year we have over 175 bras to give away, and there are various sizes. So our sisters with heavier chests or those with smaller chests will both be able to be fitted for bras. And there is someone there doing measurements. So if you're not sure, we have line dancing to incorporate heart health as well. So we're looking forward to having a great time on October 25th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Thanks, Patty.
That is nice. Oh, also, our sister Delveda is having her event. It's on the same day, but those is not going
Issues
to
of the heart.
Issues of the Heart. Yes, it's gonna be an awakening and then the rise. And so
Right.
Friday night, kind of like self-care type of thing, and then Saturday morning is her brunch. That's gonna be in the Novi area. So if you have family, friends kind of in that area, we can drop that.
If you have the flyers, definitely you could drop it in the chat, or we could send it after the fact to when we send the presentation. So
Okay.
we'd like to keep our um, partnership going during the course
Yes,
of this
yes.
year. Ladies, with this, I think we can go ahead and call this
It's 7:39.
for
Listen, you
today,
gotta know how
right?
to say what you need to say and get on up off of
That's
here.
right. That's right. That's right. So, as Katreva mentioned, when we end this call, you will see an evaluation pop up on your screen. Before you click away, just please it's only like 4 or 5 questions. So just please take some time and give us some details there, some open-ended questions as well for some upcoming programming and things of that nature. We definitely appreciate you for taking time to join us tonight to have this discussion held. Hi, Delveda. How you doing? Thank you so much, Katreva, for sharing your knowledge with all of us. This is recorded. We will make sure that you all receive the recording. Share this with your community members, your church family, other organizations that you belong to, so that they can begin to have discussions about things that are stigma, right? And they typically don't want to talk about. And so if you just send them the link to the video, and ask them if they have any questions. That might be one way to do it. You all know the presenter, so we can pull her up, and I'm sure she'll be happy to give us some resources and things of that nature. So if there is no other information that anybody wants to share, we're going to call it a night tonight. Thank you so much for participating.
Thank you. The committee, can you stay on, please? Have
Um,
a good night, everybody else.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan.